most unsettling moments in the Madoka concept trailer is the synchronized dialogue between Madoka and Homura, where they recite a series of phrases that appear eerily rehearsed, almost as if Homura is conditioning Madoka to accept her worldview. At first glance, it may seem like a philosophical exchange about the nature of happiness, but when we break it down, it becomes clear that Homura is subtly forcing her beliefs onto Madoka, shaping her perception of reality. Let's analyze the lines and how they tie into Homura's manipulation. I wonder what happiness is.
幸せって何かしら
The fact that both Madoka and Homura repeat this phrase at the same time suggests a forced mantra, something Homura has drilled into Madoka, making her question her own understanding of happiness. If we assume that Madoka was once firm in her conviction to become the law of cycles, this phrase acts as a seed of doubt. By making her repeat it, Homura is subtly eroding Madoka's confidence in her original choice. This is where the brainwashing begins. Madoka mentions it is the bright sunbeams of May, while Homura mentions it is a warm family. Madoka's answer reflects freedom, warmth, and innocence, the kind of happiness she has always cherished in her daily life. Sunlight is a reoccurring symbol in Madoka's world, often used to represent purity and the warmth of human connection. Homura, however, answers with a warm family, which carries a much heavier implication. Homura is trying to convince Madoka that her happiness was always tied to her family. She's subtly rejecting Madoka's godhood by implying that Madoka belongs in the human world, where family and warmth exist, not in the law of cycle. This is a direct reprogramming tactic. Homura is making Madoka associate happiness with staying in the world she has crafted, rather than the divine role she once embraced. There's also another line to which Madoka says it is sunny side up eggs for breakfast. This reinforces the idea of family and warmth. Madoka's father is often seen preparing meals and breakfast in a shared family experience. By saying this, Madoka is unknowingly agreeing with Homura's conditioning, reinforcing the idea that a normal life is what she truly wants. The more she repeats it, more she internalizes it, making it harder for her to remember the conviction she once had as the law of cycles. This is the essence of brainwashing. By making Madoka repeat simple, seemingly harmless truths, Homura is reshaping Madoka's core beliefs without her realizing it. Madoka and Homura both say together, but heaven has none of those things. This is one of the most damning lines. The fact that they both say it in unison suggests that Madoka has already been conditioned to believe that this statement is true. This is Homura's ultimate rationale for tearing Madoka from the law of cycles, convincing her that heaven, her divine state, is an empty, joyless existence, while the human world is where she truly belongs. Even though we as viewers know that Madoka willingly became a goddess and was content with her decision, Homura has rewritten history in Madoka's mind. Now, Madoka believes that her existence as the law of cycles was a lonely void. This is Homura's most powerful psychological weapon, not just imprisoning Madoka physically, but rewriting her perception of reality so that she no longer even desires to return to her godhood. There's also a line where it's mentioned, I wonder what happiness is. Here, they repeat the mantra again, reinforcing the doubt in Madoka's mind. Homura mentions, it is having your name called by someone, where Madoka responds with, it is calling someone's name. This exchange is a reinforcement of dependency. Homura suggests that happiness is being acknowledged by someone else, that you are only happy if someone else validates your existence. Madoka, in turn, repeats the idea, accepting that her happiness is tied to the presence of others. This is an extremely manipulative concept because it subtly conditions Madoka to believe that she needs Homura. She cannot be happy alone. Her previous self-sacrificial nature, which led her to becoming a goddess, was misguided because happiness requires acknowledgement from others. Homura is feeding Madoka a dependency loop, very much like the original time loops that she did in the original anime, where Madoka would be manipulated into ultimately be gaining the powers that would allow her to transcend into becoming goddess Madoka. Madoka once found happiness in helping others selflessly. Now, Homura is rewriting her to believe that happiness comes from being thought about and called by someone else. In other words, Madoka needs Homura to be happy. There's also a line where Homura mentions, "It is someone thinking about you." Madoka and Homura both stay together. The goddess has none of those things. This is the final reinforcement. Madoka's old existence was empty. Homura is trying to instill the idea that the goddess, Madoka's true self, was never happy, that the law of cycles was a mistake, that happiness is being thought about, and since no one in heaven could acknowledge her, she must have been suffering. The dangerous thing here is that Madoka repeats it with her, a sign that she has already absorbed the idea into her subconscious. This is the full indoctrination. There's also another line where it's mentioned the lizard girl and the split goddess. At this point, Homura introduces an allegory. The lizard girl represents Homura. The goddess represents Madoka. Homura split the goddess into two halves, kidnapping one half and dragging her to the surface. This is a direct admission of what Homura did in rebellion. The implication is that Homura believes her actions were merciful. She sees herself as the one who saved Madoka from an empty, lonely fate, completely disregarding the fact that Madoka had accepted her role and was at peace with it. There's also a line where it's mentioned that gentle radiance, when it was met with darkness, was too dazzling. This is Homura's self-justification. The gentle radiance refers to Madoka's divinity, her purity as a goddess. The darkness represents Homura's obsessive love and suffering. Homura is essentially saying that Madoka's kindness was too overwhelming, too powerful, too blinding, so she had to corrupt it to make it something she could reach. This perfectly encapsulates Homura's character. She was so consumed by her need to hold on to Madoka that she tore her down and dragged her into a world where she could never leave her again. Even though Homura views this as an act of love, the underlying truth is clear. Homura has rewritten reality, brainwashed Madoka, and convinced her to abandon her own happiness in favor of Homura's twisted vision of love. The question is, will Madoka ever break free?